Hi everyone, it's Zach and I like movies, and it is a privilege and honor to talk about the brand new final film from the legendary Hayao Miyazaki, The Boy and the Heron, or as the Japanese title translates, How Do You Live? So, Hayao Miyazaki is a filmmaker that was really up there with the all-time masters like Scorsese and Spielberg, not just in how he further opened the door for the mainstream Western audiences for anime, but his consistency. The consistency of his filmography is unparalleled. Masterpiece after masterpiece over a decades long career, and including what is arguably the greatest final film to end an illustrious career on 2013's The Wind Rises. And so 10 years after that, it's shocking still that he decided to come out of retirement and make one more beautiful statement to the world. And I am so honored and blessed that he did, because The Boy and the Heron is truly another beautiful, emotionally powerful, and such a deeply heartfelt movie. It's another masterpiece from the master. And I've been seeing some mixed reviews for this, and now that I've seen it, I'm not surprised. This is Miyazaki's most honest, his most raw, but his also least accessible movie. This is not interested in doing any typical Western style three-act structure story. It is much more abstract. It's not cute Miyazaki, not really. It is far more creepy than it is ever cozy. See, this is not for people whose only knowledge of Miyazaki is remembering watching My Neighbor Totoro and seeing posts about how delicious Studio Ghibli movies food is. This is a surreal fable told through symbols and patient internalized grief about a troubled young boy entering a fantasy land and must choose between inheriting beauty and innocence or living in the ambiguity of the real world. That is, in its essence, is what it is. But it's the journey and the feelings and the world and environments and feelings it gives you. That is the real crux of this movie. It begins with a fire that claims young Mahito's mother, and the horror of it warps and melds and stretches and blends together flame and person into unrecognizable shapes. Now Mahito, with his father, moved from a war-starved Tokyo to start a new life with his stepmother. Soon, a heron comes to call him to rescue his mother, and then he enters a beautiful fantasy. A dream world with cute squishies called warawas, sickly herons, and militaristic parakeets. A world heralded by an elderly steward who is tried for decades to make a peaceful kingdom free of violence, but even his fantasy land again and again bears war and bears death. It is another autobiographical masterpiece. And I really feel like I really wish it kept that original title, How Do You Live? Because that is a much more succinct title. And I fear that calling it The Boy and the Heron would lead some people to have the wrong expectations about this movie. The boy in the title, Mahito, is actually hard to like at times. He says he has malice in him, and I believe him. His mother's death clearly left him numb. He hardly reacts much outside of customary politeness, blunt honesty, and he internalizes his pain so much. He's so guarded, and it's hard for him to let it kind of just let out his pain and his grief. Like there's a very troubling scene where after he gets in a fight with some kids, he takes a rock and strikes himself in the head with it, and just torrent of blood just pours out of his head like a waterfall. And the titular heron isn't much more of a presence than it would think it'd be. He's a messenger of death, and with his big mocking teeth that peeks out of his bill with his big gigantic nose just jutting out from under it, uh, and eventually turns into like a goofy bumbling Birdman that helps Mahito through his journey. But it's so one, but it is just a wonderful experience to go through. And what has always been so wonderful about Miyazaki's movies is that the worlds he creates are never backdrops for plot to happen. They are always worlds to discover, to explore, and understand, both the earthly ones and the fantastical ones. In here, like the charms of this like gaggle of elderly maids and the discomfort Mahito feels with his new stepmother are given just as much importance as seeing spirits float, little spirits float up into the sky and hopefully be born into the real world, or sadly be burnt and die out before given the chance. Yes. In fact, in this world feels so familiar to me, to other Miyazaki movies. In fact, there are several direct callbacks to Miyazaki's other works. There's a horizon full of sailboats. That's quite very similar to the sky of plains in Porco Rosso. There's shadowy human figures that like right out of Spirited Away. There's a large, menacing, and crumbling tower that's like not unlike Castle in the Sky. Mahito himself actually reminded me a good deal of Ashitaka from Princess Mononoke, and I guess you suppose in terms of like a plot beat sense, this Mahito trying to save a family member by journeying through a spiritual realm is at least reminiscent of Spirited Away, but very different ideas, very different goals, and very different approaches. This is a very patient movie, the first half of which is spent just like existing with Mahito and trying and coming to like see this new home that he has in a way is sort of an inverse of My Neighbor Totoro. The girls in Totoro move there because their mother is sick in the hospital, but he already lost his, and the emptiness is so just stuck with him. But these are not just like callbacks for the member berries sake and just the point and reference of it all. These are purposeful. They are reflections and in conversation with the dual nature of Miyazaki's work and of Miyazaki himself. And Hayao Miyazaki is an infamously sad man. He has never been shy about sharing his thoughts on the despair he feels about humanity and the work and his process of making work. Filmmaking only brings suffering. I can't believe I'm making another one. And yet he makes another one because he's still not done having stories to tell and lessons to impart. But I feel like as he is a nihilist, but Miyazaki's movies, the stories he tells, they are not. His films are so loving and so friendly and so comforting, but they are all of them somewhere have a melancholy and a darkness at the edges. In Princess Mononoke, there is like bountiful help and a beauty that Lady Eboshi brings to the people of Irontown that can only be made through the industrialization and the leveling of the forest. In Spirited Away, there's always this like sense of danger with the spirits, and like especially like Yubaba the witch. Of course, and Porco Rosso. There's Porco carries like the grief of war. There's always a threat. Was this like threat of war at the margins, both in Porco Rosso and Howl's Moving Castle, and even here there is always a sense there's always an awareness that there will always be an army somewhere trying to start a war for their own ends. And mankind and nature are in permanent opposition to each other. There's no peaceful cohabitation is possible. Mankind, civilization is only achieved through the destruction brought on by human intervention. That's the entire grief and drama of The Wind Rises. So much the beauty of the creations of his planes that are used as weapons of war. And pessimistic as Miyazaki himself is about human nature, and he is, to call his movies nihilistic is missing the forest for the trees. They have nihilistic elements, mind you, but it's only because Hayao cares so much. He does care. He aches for us. He wants so bad for us to cherish the beauty in the world, swim in the beautiful skies, and fly through the seas. And he wants us to cherish the lives of each other. Pain is part of that living, but that reminds us what we need to hold on to while we still have it, and to what to let go when we don't. And in that way, I think The Boy and the Heron is an apotheosis of this empathetic human storytelling of a nihilist. Yes, he is saying that the world is full of not just the world, but his worlds that he takes so much care and pain and pleasure to create and share with us. Those worlds are full of treachery, are full of anxiety, are full of pain and despair. Yes, there is beauty. Yes, there is companionship. Yes, there is love. But it is still a flawed place. And if his worlds were to crumble away, if his world were to be annihilated apocalyptically without a successor, maybe that's okay. Maybe the next generation will create their own wonders. And that's really my thoughts on the movie. It's amazing. Living in the same timeline with Hayao Miyazaki is a true gift. He may be a pessimist, but he's not an unselfish artist, I don't think. And the lessons he gives to us, the incredible, wonderful visuals, and all the breathtaking, these immaculate animation, and oh my god, I can't believe I didn't mention the score by Joe Hisashi is so wonderful. Marvelous movie. Marvelous sounds, marvelous music, and if you do want to see this, and you should, do take care to know that this is much less traditional than your typical Miyazaki movie. This is much more patient. It is a patient movie. It is a breathtaking movie, but it's also scary. It's this gets great work out of like the creature designs. It is a movie that asks a lot of engagement from the audience. It asks of you, it really just asks, see it, go to bed, and dream about it, think about the ideas, think about the images, and really let it ruminate with you. It's fine if it'll be too dense on your first watch, and I have to say, the ending is rather abrupt in that it doesn't really end so much as it just stops. And that does bother me. But it's absolutely worth seeing. It is a breathtaking movie. I cannot believe that Hayao Miyazaki still has stories to share, still has films to create. They say he's got another one in him, and I hope he does. I would hate to live in a world where we don't get to marvel in his great gifts, and I hope we take more lessons from the best lessons from him and these wonderful stories. Love the world, love your people, love your family, love your friends, and cherish them. And cherish this movie. Cherish all these. I feel this deserves nothing less than a 9. This was absolutely breathtaking, wonderful movie, and that's all I have. Did you see? I definitely cannot wait to see this again. I really got to check out the dub because, man, Robert Pattinson is on some Willem Dafoe shit with that voice he's doing for the Heron. Cannot wait to see this again. What did you think of the boy and the Heron? What's your favorite Hayao Miyazaki movie? And yeah, I can't. Yeah, please watch this movie. Comment, like, subscribe, do what you want. I got more movies to watch, and keep watching movies. Later.